For those of you who I have not met, my name is Jenna Christensen, and I am the founder of Women at Work. And I'm so happy to have you all here tonight because it's because of your participation that we exist. And it has really become a passion of mine over the past, I think we started, it'll be 2 years ago in May, to really be here to empower my fellow women to be their best selves in their work, in their life, in their relationships, and to talk about topics that both, one, I'm very curious about, and two, either I struggle with myself personally or I see my colleagues struggling with. And I think tonight is a perfect topic of something that I both have had, struggles with, and I know a lot of people here have, which is client relationships. I think we should jump right in. So, for those of you who are not at Gail's first talk called The Energy of Success, I want to give you a couple of minutes to kind of tell everyone about who you are and the work that you do, if you don't mind.
I'm never prepared to do that though. So my name is Gail Baral, and I am currently a business coach and a lifestyle strategist. And I became a business coach after spending many, many years in retail, wholesale, product design, and my most recent business was interior design, and I had a retail store here in Los Angeles that was a design/gourmet food store. So my passion, my background is in lifestyle businesses, in creating beautiful things and beautiful experiences. I also had a tea business and a catering business. So the whole sort of range of hospitality is my background. And about, I think 7 years ago now, I had a situation in my family where my dad got sick, and I stepped up as the eldest child to take care of my family during that time, and stepped away from all of those businesses here in LA and moved back to my hometown to deal with my family. And when I got there, I didn't know what I was going to do or how I was going to keep myself sane while I was dealing with all of this stuff. And I was sort of divinely guided to coaching. I had hired a coach 1 or 2 times as a business owner. I had hired a coach to help me with sales, to coach me through some of my fears and anxiety around selling. And I had worked with a group of women in a group coaching situation, and they were great experiences, but I had never thought of it for myself until that moment when I was sitting in Philadelphia saying, what am I going to do now? And it sort of came to me, and so I got certified. I went through a 9-month training program and became certified, and so I've been coaching mostly entrepreneurs in small to multi-million dollar businesses, but all in the sort of lifestyle, creative arena, including some tech firms where the founders are really creative tech, founders. And I love working with people to help them just get over the obstacles, the fears, the anxieties, the frustrations, to just recognize who they are, what they offer, why they're so special, and to just feel good about the fact that they made this choice to be an entrepreneur, and that everybody struggles. And as Tiffany said earlier, you don't grow if you're not challenged. So sometimes you have to step into the fire, and I hope that I can be a safe place for the entrepreneurs that I work with to just be honest with somebody who will listen and won't judge them and is objective and can maybe give a perspective of a different perspective on the way they're thinking about what they're doing. So I do one-on-one coaching, and I do workshops. I'm working on an online program, so I work with people in a lot of different ways.
So for the people who were not here, how many people were at Gail's last talk? Okay, so quite a few of you actually. I wonder for people to sort of understand kind of the perspective you're coming from in terms of your work and the style of coaching and talking about the energy levels. Should we do a quick recap of the different energy levels? Okay.
So I just want to give you some basis of what it is. So when I went through this coach training, one of the things that I loved about this program that I went through was the sort of practical, pragmatic, and the more, I wouldn't say spiritual. I'm very both, but as you can see, I'm not real woo-woo. I like things practical and logical, but I'm really interested in the things that are a little bit less tangible. And so we studied about how energy is everything, and that how our thoughts are non-physical forms of energy, and that how our thoughts affect our feelings, and how our feelings impact the actions that we take, and how the actions that we take impact our results, and how our results end up impacting what we think. And so you go through this vicious cycle of thinking, feeling, acting, having an outcome, and thinking again. And I really love that. If anybody here is into the law of attraction, it's sort of along the basis of that. But what I loved about the way I learned about it was it's practical. It's the law of attraction, but practical, basically. So I created this thing called the energy of success, where there's these 7 different levels of energy that we all live in. And there's the top 4 levels, the highest levels of energy, are where we find success. The lower levels of energy are where we get stuck. So what I want to do is just talk you through very briefly the levels, so just to give you an idea, because I'm going to bring them up a lot when you throw your questions at me, and I'll repeat it again, but I think it would help for you to just hear them in a row. So the lowest level of energy is the heaviest. It's the most catabolic level of energy. It's the most destructive, and it's the one where the thinking is I lose, or I'm losing. It's like, oh, woe is me. I'm a victim of the circumstances of my life. I can't control what's happening to me. And it's when we're in that energy, the action, because we have that thinking, the feelings that it creates are guilt or shame or sort of self-deprecation. And the actions that we take when we're in that space are to isolate ourselves from other people, to be sort of apathetic towards our life, because we don't really feel like we have a sense of purpose when we're feeling.
Sound familiar, anyone? But this is a place that I go to.
Yeah. So the second level is the level of anger. It's the level where when you move yourself out of that lowest level, what generally happens is it's because you're motivated by some frustration, or you're looking outside of yourself. So where if the first level is I lose, the second level is you lose. You sort of take it outside of yourself because you want to put it on someone else. So you're looking to them, and you're looking for somebody to blame for your circumstances. But in order to do that, your energy is shifting just a little bit up because you're agitated. So it is a little higher level of energy, but it still feels heavy because you're angry. You're walking around the world with this sort of, I need to win, and if I'm going to win, that means you need to lose. So it's about making people wrong so that you can be right. It's about, everything in the world of level 2 is black and white, right or wrong, good and bad. There's a lot of judgment in that level. The next level is a level where, again, as it goes up, it gets lighter. This level of energy is about taking responsibility for yourself. It's finally where you say, you know what, I'm in charge of how I feel. I realize that I can't control everybody. Isolating myself is not working. Blaming everybody isn't working. I need to take responsibility. So level 3 feels a lot better because you're finally saying, okay, what can I do? And usually what happens is when you get into that phase, you are rationalizing things. So you're looking for ways to make it not so bad. So you might come up with reasons. You might find ways to tolerate a situation. You might find ways to compromise with your clients or whomever it is that you're dealing with. But it's all about you feeling better about yourself. So this level is the I win level. So it was I lose, you lose. Now it's like I win because I'm taking control. And it's like, if you win too, that's fine, but that's not really my priority. My priority is for me to feel good. And in order to feel good, I'm going to try to find ways to cope with this situation. And a lot of us do that to get out of the heavier energies. But it's still not feeling great. So when we move to level 4, that's when we really move into what I call the energy of success. That level is about compassion, it's about caring, it's about looking outside of yourself and looking to how you can help other people. So level 4 is the level where you are doing for other people with an honest intention of helping them, of not expecting anything in return. And it's a beautiful level of compassion and of teamwork, so it's a great level for business people to be thinking about. But the challenge of level 4 is that we often get stuck there. And when we're stuck there, we're doing for other people until we get to that point where we get resentful and we just go down the rabbit hole back to level 1 or level 2. We get angry or we get apathetic because we're so burnt out from taking care of everybody else and not taking care of ourselves. So that's level 4. So level 4 would be the you win level. Level 5 is the level where I think a lot of businesses are functioning, and it's a really good place to be. It feels really good. It's the level where you're collaborating with other people. It's the level where you're saying, okay, we're in this to do something great. What can we create together? So it's a long way from that isolation energy, and it's more the let's get together. Like, what can we do together? It's not about me winning or you winning. It's about both of us winning. So that's level 5. Level 6 is about that higher self, where you get into your own. You're really tapping into your creativity, into your intuition. When you're in the energy of level 6, it's when you feel like you're hearing what your gut is telling you and you're trusting it. And so you're guided. Like I said, I was guided to coaching. I sat there and I just said, okay, I'm okay that I'm here and I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm just going to wait until the right thing comes to me. And I literally just got this gut instinct that I should look into it. And I was guided to it. So I was very much in level 6 when I went to Philadelphia, because I was there to help my family. I was there to, do I made a decision. I didn't feel like I was a victim. I didn't feel like I was being forced to take care of my family. I made a choice. I gave up a life that I loved, but I went with an open mind. And because of that, I feel like I was guided to this amazing experience that has changed my life. So that's what level 6 is about, that trusting, that knowing that you're in the right place and that it's going to all work out okay, because you don't have expectations. You're not judgmental, you're more objective. So the level 7 is the highest level of energy, and that's sort of the supreme highest level that's hard for anybody to stay in. I mean, even the Dalai Lama is going to get stressed out occasionally because life happens, but he's living in that level where there is no judgment, where there is that sense of inner calm, because you don't feel like you're separate. You feel like you're at one with everything and everyone, and that you have a positive expectation that things are okay no matter what happens. And what I love about being in that level is it's all about the experience. It has nothing to do with the outcome. So when you're not keyed into the outcome and having expectations about how you want things to end up or what you expect out of it, life is really fun, and that's where you can really tap into that level of enjoyment. So those are the levels, and I'll bring them up again as I speak, but what I wanted to explain to you is I do this assessment where you respond to, there's a bunch of statements, about 72 statements, and you respond to them, and from that I get a reading. So it's like an energy audit of your energy in 2 ways. There's a chart, and so it's actually very graphic, which I love. So it shows you how your energy is split amongst those levels when things are normal for you, when you're in your normal space. And your normal is probably very different than my normal. So it's your normal, not compared to everybody else's. And then the lower chart is what happens to your energy when things get derailed a little bit. And so having done this with so many clients, what I see is that with 99.9% of them, their levels when things are normal for them, they're really often in 4, 5, and 6 and really having a good life and things are good. But when something happens, and that stress could be anything, it could be a client that hasn't paid their invoice, it could be a client that is just being a little nasty to somebody that you work with, it could be a contractor, whatever it is, we just like nosedive into those lower levels. And if we're not aware that we're there and have tools to get out of them, we could just stay in them forever, and then we bring that energy to everything else that we do. So I did this with Jenna, and
mind-blowing. Like, she walked me through, she did just what she did tonight, and walked me through what all the energy levels were, and then took me to the chart and explained, and I went, oh my God, I see the pattern. Here's the circle that I'm in.
And you were, I think, a 4, 1, 2.
4, yes.
Because 1 and 2 were pretty close.
Yeah. So mine is I help until I feel like I can't make a difference. Then I get pissed, and then I help. So we're working on that.
Right. So can I be a coach for a minute? And
Yes.
ask you, so since we've done that, what have you noticed?
Well, I'm trying to be, I really have made some changes. I think a lot of you know, and I think I probably brought up that night that I had a lot of sickness like I had 7 sinus infections last year. So I spent, in my life, I've never been sick that much. I was sick 70% of the time last year. So for me, it's been about making sure I'm taking care of myself and having better boundaries. And also, the other thing I took away from that night and our conversation prior was, I find that I ask myself now, how can I find the win-win or the win-win-win here? What's the win? And I just kind of ask myself that over and over again. But I think just knowing and being able to recognize where I'm at, even if it's like, oh, I'm at number 1 right now, I'm in that feeling of just being able to recognize it sort of like helps get out of it. Mm-hmm. So I think just having that knowledge has been really helpful.
I mean, that was the impact that it had for me, because I used to dwell in level 1, just dwelled in it. Like I would say, I took to my bed. I would struggle to get out of it when things didn't go my way. I was one of those people who liked to control everything. As a designer, as a retail store owner, I wanted to control everything, and when things wouldn't go my way, I would show up for work, I was functioning, but I wasn't a happy person. And I know that energy, I was putting that energy out there, and so opportunities that I wished would come to me would disappear, and things just wouldn't happen for me. So when I saw it, I had read all the law of attraction stuff, but when I saw this, for me, I liked seeing a chart, and I liked having a goal of knowing, okay, recognizing this is where I'm at, but this might help me get to just the next level. I can't expect to go from being in the rabbit hole to being all, level 7 in a heartbeat,
right,
until I start practicing that. That's like a muscle that you have to work at so that you start to know what it feels like. And I'm sure for you, now that you have the awareness, you know what it feels like when you're slipping into 1. Yeah. And I still slip there. I'm human. We're all human. But I don't stay there.
Right.
I recognize it. And I have all these tools now that I use. Like recently I slipped really deep into level 1 after a little medical thing. And it was just all in my thinking. It wasn't the medical thing. It was my fear around the medical thing. And I slipped into this level 1, and I couldn't get out of it. So I pulled out all the guns, as I said, and I just did all the things that I know I need to do to get out of it, and it worked. But in the past, I would have dwelled in there for a long time. And I would have been looking for something outside of me. I would be looking for a new client, or I would be looking for a great sale at the retail store. I was always looking outside of me for something to make me feel better, not looking at the choices, the thoughts that I was having about my situation were what was creating the stress.
So let's jump into, we've gotten a lot of questions from the people that are here, and I'd love to get started on these to get specific and really talk about, some of the issues that we all face. I mean, a lot of these things that came through, I faced myself. And the first one is something that I can relate to more now, having started my own business. And, and listen, this is a question I came up with because I know a lot of designers struggle with this, is, a client hires them, they hire them for their expertise, but then they don't listen. And they go out and they buy a sofa by themselves, or they buy a piece of art that doesn't go with the concept that they first came up with, or they don't understand, why do we have to do it that way? So, as I've gone out on my own, I feel almost the same way. It's like, look, people, this is what I do. You know what I do. You've been to my events. You hired me for a reason. Why aren't you listening to me? Right. So what is that energy about? And how do we get through? Because I know that sends me to a level 1.
Right.
So I don't know. And if there are any designers here, I'm sure, who have faced that maybe. Where does that come?
With my designers that I work with and my clients that are private individuals, so it's prevalent no matter what.
You're the expert in what you do, and they're not listening. Right.
So what do you think is, if you're talking about energy, and you can look at what it does to you, but where are they coming from? Where is, before I tell you my take on it, where do you think, and again, you can't ever know, and you have to realize that what's going on for somebody else entirely. But where do you think?
My personal experience, I think it's fear.
It's fear.
Yeah, I think it's fear.
It's fear.
Yeah.
So fear about when the client, they've made the decision, but they have fear.
Yeah.
Around.
Because it's an unknown. So they've said, look, we want all of these things, but we don't want to, and then they realize they don't want to really change the way they're, because this is comfortable, even though they want this up here. They don't want to take the road map to get up here, right? Because it's not familiar.
Right. Okay.
So
that's my
relinquishing control.
Exactly. So it's about control, really. So control is that level 2. And one of the things I didn't mention about the levels is that in studies that were done with this process, most of our society is at level 2. The average person is at a high 2, low 3. So if you know that, I think it's really helpful to know that most people, and it's not like you live in that level all the time. You fluctuate from minute to minute. Like, I've been in 5 levels already since I've been here. You just go up and down, up and down. So, but most people, they sort of dwell in that place because of the thoughts, the way they perceive their life. So even though you may have a very successful client that can hire you and that can pay you, and that wants, when they hire you, they're all in level 5. I'm so excited. I'm collaborating with this incredible person, and I want to bring them into my life, and they have a vision for what you can create. They get scared like anybody else, like you would. So my question back to you would be, if that were you, what would it take to help you get back up from level? And anybody can answer that question. What do you think it would take for you to get from that place where I need to control everything back to the collaborative place?
Maybe being open that a fear signals change, and that recognizing that's a natural part of the process, to kind of work each other through it.
Right. So you could say to your client, in coaching, I'm going to share a lot of coaching tools with you. We have this thing that we say, acknowledge and validate. It's probably therapy also. Acknowledge and validate it, because you get it. You've been there. You're a control freak too.
Yes,
so
I am.
I get it. I understand where you're coming from. But don't put words in their mouth. Maybe another coaching tip is to ask questions. So what's going on? We've got a plan. I'm so excited. You were so excited. What can I do to support you? What can I do to help you feel comfortable with the decisions that we've made? Does that make sense?
Yep. Sorry, I'm writing all this down.
You can
Does-
also ask them to collaborate with you. Let's collaborate together. Let's,
Absolutely.
here's the 10 designs we like, the 5 designs.
Exactly.
Which ones are in, which are out.
That's like, it's a sign that they want to feel safe, and they're not feeling safe. So how could you be that for them? And you just, even one of the things I always talk about is your language, the words you use. So I think you just use 2 great words: collaborate and together.
I think it's
So-
language and tone as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
If you speak in a dictatorship, then you've lost them already. Because
Exactly.
They're going to be that much more scared.
Exactly. And if you're a dictator, you're going to get pushback.
Right.
So you're just creating a force of power. Who's going to have the power? So that never usually ends very well,
Right.
especially when they've hired you. That never ends very well. But yeah, those 2 words, together and collaborate, are great words to just always use when they're starting to get nervous.
I mean, in the end, it's their house or their bed or their bathroom. And you want it to be really great, but it's also their house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not your house.
Right.
Right.
So at some point you have to just say, okay, that's what she wants. I told her, what I advise or,
Right.
what my expertise
I agree with you.
enjoys, but that's what she likes.
Right. Where I get stuck is, and I wonder if I'm in a level 2 when I do this, is I'm like, then what, if they're not going to listen, what am I here to contribute? If, like, that's where I struggle with, like, I get, like, the asking the questions and talking them through it, but I've had the situation where I feel like on the inside I'm like Donald Draper and I just want to throw everything down and walk out of the room. And what are you, crazy? This is the best idea in the world, and how could you not get this? That's on the inside.
But that
Sure,
energy
people
is
are
what's
feeling it on the
translated,
outside,
yeah.
but there's also the other side of me that like will then go home and say, if they don't see the value, if this client doesn't see the value in this idea and this strategy, like, how can I keep taking their money? Or like, how do I, because I just don't feel good about that.
Right,
Like,
right.
what am I really contributing here?
Right. So I've had that situation as well. So I can feel that energy of what it's about. You're probably more dramatic with throwing things down than I would be, but I
don't really throw anything down.
Yeah, but I mean, in
I
your
don't want
energy
to.
and in your mind, where I would, like I said, take to my bed and
Right.
just be mopey and disappointed and whatever. I think it that is sort of almost goes back to the clients that you work with and how you start out with them and on where you start with them, and making sure that you're picking the right clients. And I know it's hard, particularly when you're starting a business, that you may need to make money, so you may feel like you don't have a choice or an option. But one of the things about this energy thing is that you want to attract people that do value you and do respect you and do, give you the leeway and are ready to do that.
I love when you lead me into the next question, because I have a question from Lisa, who says, how do I attract a specific clientele that appreciates, understands, and values the services that I offer?
I know. Well, I think, if you think about the energy levels, the higher levels of energy are where you are feeling the most creative and you're the most intuitive. So it's those are the lightest areas. So if you approach your client attraction, your meetings from that place, you will know, you will put out that energy, but you will know if a client is right for you. And I mean, having been a designer, I know in retrospect, there were so many signs that particular clients were going to be difficult, and I didn't want to see them. And I went ahead anyway because I needed the money. But what it did was it took up all of my time and energy so that I didn't have it for the client that I may have wanted to have, and they probably went to somebody else because I was so head in the muck that I wasn't showing up for them. So if like attracts like. If you want to attract a client with that kind of respect and that will honor what you do, you need to be that. Not think it, but you need to be that as well. You need to put out that energy and show up for your clients that way. And you have to have enough confidence in yourself that when the client is haggling over price, or they don't want to sign your contract, they're not the right client for you.
Right.
You're in business. This is a business.
Right.
And even when you're doing projects for your family or friends, it's still a business. So there are ways that you can do a contract or make a decision that maybe don't ruffle people's feathers. But if you're coming at it from that higher level, you can also be gracious in turning down the client, because you're not blaming them, you're not arguing with them, you're just saying maybe we're not the right fit. I've had to do that even as a coach. I've had to say maybe we're not the right fit. I think maybe I know somebody that I'd like to refer you to, and it feels so good to be able to help that person and help the other coach that I've referred them to. I don't go down the rabbit hole to that one or two.
I'm so glad that we're talking about this right now, because I have a potential client that I've been talking to that I know it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
And I was about to email this person back today because they had followed up with me, and I've been kind of putting it off. And I started to email them back, and my computer crashed. And yet I'm still thinking about writing them back, and now I'm like, no, I gotta write them back and say, I'm so sorry, I haven't written back because I'm so busy and I can't. Thanks so much. But
that's such a great example of how when you're in that higher energy, your intuition will tell you, the universe will tell you, you will know, but we don't listen to it. And yet you say I'm intuitive, or I know you use your intuition as a designer. I know you're tapping into your intuition all the time as a creative person, but you're compartmentalizing it. You're putting it towards your creativity, and you're probably not listening to it when it comes to your business. But the message is so strong. When I think back on my past and the mistakes that I made, the message was so in my face, and yet I didn't do it. I didn't listen to it.
okay, you said one other thing in that last response, or the response before, sorry, about, this is a business, right? So I was recently having a conversation with a couple of designers about guilt they have over invoicing, right? Does anybody here have that? Okay. And, you do all this work, and then you go to send the invoice, and you calculate your hours and the markup and whatever, and you go, I can't send this. This is too much. What is that, and how do we sort of get over that?
Well, that's like you're just dipping down into the lower levels of energy, obviously, and you're stuck there. So your thinking is, I lose. I'm the loser in this deal because I can't charge them what I really think I should charge them. So I think that it's a tough one because you're already in that situation. So I think, as a business owner, you do have to be aware of what it takes to run your business. And, again, if a client can't afford you and you're doing the work, then you need to think, well, maybe I need to get myself up to level 3 and take responsibility for it. So if it's that, if you think that the client will not pay it, then, but you did the work anyway, then it's taking responsibility. If it's your own lack of confidence, that's a whole other issue. That's right. That's about looking at your confidence, your value, and reminding yourself that all these people hired you. I look around this room, there isn't anybody here that isn't ridiculously fabulous. So, there's no reason why you're being hired to do this job.
Right.
That you should have any lack of confidence around how you show up. But I think if you have an expectation, or you're worrying, or if you have an intuition that there's going to be a problem, then that's what you have to look at.
Right.
And think about how can you reframe it. so that you can feel okay about it. I mean, that's really what it is. What this whole thing is reframing the thoughts that you have so that you can feel okay about your life.
Does anyone have a situation like that they want to ask a question about?
I've reframed.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reframing. I have, because I think not every designer, but so many of us go through that. Like, what does this person charge? And the biggest thing is how that you finish something, and when you're about to present those invoices, like, God, this took me so much longer than I thought. Like, should it have taken me this long? Should I have been able to get through this faster? Should I charge them for that? Should I? Well, I have two things to say to that. When I went to design school, I was an art director before I was an interior designer, and I had a design teacher tell us, figure out when you go off on your own, if you guys freelance, figure out how many hours it's going to take you, whether it's a TV commercial, a brochure, whatever you're doing, figure it out and then double the hours, because it's always double. And I remember at first thinking, that's so crazy, but it was true. It totally became true.
It is.
And I think it's often true with design, but someone also told me, so I think about that if I'll do a flat fee. I can't remember where I read this, but it was the most valuable thing I ever read, because people in the industry, or people who aren't in, like for my husband, example, he's always saying to me, well, what other people charge? Well, how much should it cost? Well, and I said, well, it's hard to know. Like, some clients are so quick, they make quick decisions, it goes fast, there's no problems, and others, it's like a nightmare, and I'm not working for free. So, but I read somewhere, when people ask you, well, what are my hours going to be? Well, how much are you going to charge me for all of this? A great rule of thumb is whatever the total budget is, 15 to 20% of that budget will go toward designers' hours. Has anyone else ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
I'd never heard that before. And it's the perfect measure. And so I now tell people that if you have a $100,000 budget, well, I'm probably going to be about $15,000. That's what you're going to end up paying me just in my time. And that's a good measure. And if they want to do a flat fee, I'll say, well, you could be a huge pain in the ass at 20% or 25%. I had one woman who spent double on the sofa just on my hours. Or maybe you'll just see the 15. So I'll do a flat fee at 18% of the budget. And it's actually worked out really well because I'm not stressed out. I'm not like, oh, I shouldn't. Well, I'm not going to charge you for all this time. I really want to go look at more rugs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you just feel free.
You're not questioning yourself.
Yeah, you just, and then I would only say this in this room, I worked that hours, I'm like, I'm winning. Like, I'm actually ahead. Like, I pumped this out quick, and it works. So,
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think that it's great to have, when you have some sort of structure or something that you feel confident, it gives you the confidence.
Like, you have something
to
back yourself up. And I've even had husbands say, well, where did it, and I'll send them. I'll send it to you, Jenna. And I found a whole other thing in AD, and it was different fee structures. It was like, it was like Michael Smith, and people much better than I mean, but I'll present that to clients. Like, well, this is how most people charge. If I'm doing a construction project, I'm going to manage it. I want 15% of your budget. I don't care if you're spending $500,000. That's my fee.
Right.
Good job. But I did present it that way. Like, that's normal.
And the other thing I want to say about that is when you have that confidence because you have that structure behind you, the client is reading that energy versus when you're a little bit hesitant.
Yeah.
And I notice that, a lot of my clients that are women, we tend to be uncomfortable talking about what we charge, just even having that conversation. So, and again, it may be unconscious, but the client is reading that. They're sensing that there's some hesitation, and there are people that are great people, and there are people that are not so great people. If half of the, most of the world is living at level 2, they're going to be gauging your energy, and they, and I don't mean it to sound negative, but they may unconsciously sense that you're hesitating about your price, and that client that is that type of person, that they're going to take that as an opportunity to maybe negotiate your fees, or to, there's different clients, they guilt you, or, whatever it is, they really can't afford you, but they want you. So if you have that confidence,
it's kind of taking the onus off you to say, well, this is how I check. It's like, this is standard, because there is no standard, as we know, but there is kind of a standard. And if you can present them with something and be like, hey, look, this is what I'm worth. If you're going to hire, and I even tell people, I'm like, I know it's a luxury to have a professional interior designer, but
They called you. That's the other thing.
That's the other thing.
Well, you're not calling people going, okay, I want you to buy a sofa and I want you to buy that. And it's like, no,
No, they called us.
Right.
Like, it's not, like, things are expensive.
Like you knock
and
on their
if we,
door
I feel
selling
like it's part of our
rooms.
job to manage people's expectations. So when people are like, I have to put window treatments on every single one of my windows,
That's not my
and
problem.
well, no, I say to them, just so you know, if you're not aware, window treatments are shockingly expensive. And you know, if they've already done it, they know. If they haven't, it's like manage people's expectations.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know, be aware that
But-
this is going to be expensive.
But I think you also have to have the experience as a designer to have that confident conversation with your client, because I think if you don't have that experience, then you
Yes.
don't have
You don't have the
that
structure.
voice. You don't have that structure to
Right.
be upfront that way with the people.
Or to know when to walk away. Like that, back to that point of knowing when this is.
Has
not my
anybody here
client.
ever walked away from a
Oh my
client?
God, I walk away all the time.
Yes.
All the time. All the time. I do.
And is it usually something that they say, do, the energy just doesn't feel right?
Not
What
after
is
I
it?
signed a contract. I'm not that bad. I've actually only walked away from 2 clients, but people like, you know, we've had a couple meetings and then I think I said this in the last thing. I had a man give a beautiful, massive house. I mean, but whatever, I met with them. And again, my husband's like, well, save me $2,000 just to help out and place light boxes. I'm like, this isn't how I work. He just wanted a few hours of my time. He was giving me $2,000 flat. They were already like ready to drywall. I was super stressed out. I went to help him, and it was after that last meeting, and I'm like, I'm already pissed off. Like, I'm already stressed out. I already had the check, and I was in my office late at night, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. And I'm on the phone with my husband, like, yeah, I'm not doing it. He's like, that's so stupid. Just go out. I go, no, I'm out of my comfort zone, and I'm already angry.
Right.
So I literally sent the check back to the guy the next day, called him, I said, the check's in the mail. I'm so sorry, but we're so busy, I can't help you. Because the carrot in front of me was like, well, when we get done with this, we're going to hire you to do the whole house.
Right.
Which never happens.
Decorate,
Right.
soft
Right.
furnishings.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want it to your house.
Right.
The way you already were working with me and dragging me around by the nose and telling me how I'm going to structure this fee structure, I was like, no, I'm.
Well, you know,
Best decision I've
that's
ever made.
it's a great example of how people tell you who they are without
Mhm.
telling you who they are.
Right.
You know, it's last minute. It's just a little bit with a carrot for the future.
Right.
He's giving you so many clues that he's in this lower level of energy of I win, you lose.
Right.
He's in 2. I win, you lose. I just need you to do, you know.
Right.
Oh my God,
you're-
that's so many people.
Yes, he's not hiring you for your expertise, for your advice, which is the value that you bring.
Like that email that you need to send. It was such a relief to send that email.
Yeah.
I just like my blood pressure up and like, okay, phew, back to
Yeah.
my other
Yeah.
projects.
Okay, I want to move on to another question. This one's from Melissa, and I love this question. When trust gets broken in the client business sphere, how do you bounce back? And how do you have a more clear antenna for the next manipulation?
Yeah, that's tough because manipulators vary. So it's not going to always be the same manipulator each time. I read a really good article. I was thinking if I had time, I would have copied it for you. It lists maybe 5 or 6 types of bad clients. And the way they wrote it was really helpful in the way they described it. And I'll send it to
Okay,
you
great.
so you
I'd
can share
like
it with
to.
everybody because I thought it was really good. I don't like to look at the negative, but the truth is, you know, just having that awareness of how people show up, I think is helpful. But trust is a tough thing. You know, trust is something that you earn. It's not something that you can buy or that you're just given. So trust is a really tough thing to bounce back from. But I think if you can be in the higher level and not go down the rabbit hole to that 1 or 2 where you're blaming yourself for, you know, it's a relationship, it's a synergy between 2 people that were collaborating, and whatever happened, I mean, if it's something that you can take responsibility for and you take responsibility for it, that will go a long way with the other person. But if they were the one perhaps that broke the trust, I don't know what in this particular situation, and they're not willing to take responsibility for it, then it's tough. It was that, yeah. It's tough because then they have to build back the trust, and if they're not going to go to those higher levels, you can't change somebody else. I mean, you know that. So all you can do is look at yourself and how what are you making that situation about? So that's a question that I always ask myself when I'm feeling in this low energy. What am I making this situation about?
That's a great question.
So what are you making it about, and how could you either reframe it, or maybe not? Maybe, maybe you want to stay in that place, but at least get to 3 where you take responsibility for yourself and say, well, you can choose to let it go. You can choose to change something, but maybe you can't, and you can choose to leave. And those basically are your choices. Let it go, change it, or leave it. So, when we get into 1, we can't even see those options. It's all about how wrong do you feel,
Do you have any follow-up questions?
I feel like I've gone through that process, but I wanted to describe it or put those questions out loud. I think the biggest thing for me now is, how can I have a sharper antenna?
Right. Well, just by the fact that you've had the experience, it's added to your brain and your mind, and it's there, and it's in your subconscious. But it's not really about that. It's really about being in touch with your intuition. It's really about trusting your intuition. It goes back to trusting yourself. Trusting yourself and your intuition, because your body will tell you. Is there anybody here that has, is aware of when their body is telling them something? What is the feeling that you feel? Your heart fluttering, pitter patter.
Sweaty.
Yeah.
It's like sensations.
Yeah.
It's like there's either trauma there.
Right.
Or something.
Right.
Or is it?
Yeah, I had one client who said her arm tingles. But she became aware that her arm tingles when something's, her body is trying to tell her something. So I think that's the answer. It's it's a muscle, so practice it. Stop and just say, okay, what is my intuition? Like Jenna, what is my intuition telling me? Why have I been avoiding? That's a great one. When you're avoiding something, that's a good sign that your intuition is trying to tell you something. It's telling you to stay away. So stop and say, okay, why am I avoiding this? What's going on? And just, whether you meditate or not, you can do it in a meditation, but you can just do it sitting at your desk. If you just focus in and say, okay, what is going on? Ask yourself the question. That's the other thing. The brain really likes to be asked questions. The way the brain is structured, it will answer the question for you. So ask it as a question. Why am I avoiding this person? Why don't I trust this person? And just be quiet and see what comes to you. And that will be your intuition telling you what to do. I hope that helps.
The next question comes from Chris. And I love this. It's a 2-part question. Because this is something I've experienced in my career. I feel like I'm getting a little bit better about it, but I'll just read what she wrote. I have a lot of responsibilities working with a new client, and I'm juggling a lot. I'm excited about every aspect of the job and anxious to do it all quickly and efficiently, but a couple of things are happening. 1, I'm excited, apparently. I dream about work and planning projects all night long, every night. This happens to me all the time. I'm at the point where I'm afraid to go to sleep. I'm exhausted when I wake up, and I feel like I never stop going. Anybody else have that ever? Yeah, okay. 2, I keep having to remind myself that it's not going to all happen in a few weeks. Why not? The work could take a year or more. I'm having trouble finding balance there. Am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Am I behind? I feel a little all over the place and anxious.
Yeah. Oh God, I lived in that space. I still do occasionally live in that space. But again, I think the thing to remember is you still do, but you stay in it less. You're not in it as long, so it's not as debilitating. So you were talking about last year, how you were sick all last year. It's that kind of thinking that makes us sick.
Yeah.
Because you're not sleeping, you're obsessing basically, and you've got this roller coaster in your mind just going around and round and round, spinning out of control, and that's what makes you sick. So again, in the past, I would have just gotten sick and just been sick. Now, when I start to feel sick, I ask myself, what am I spinning out on? What is what's happening? Where am I losing track? So I think the whole scenario, though, that you were just describing, that one is about trusting yourself. It's really about trusting yourself that you will do the best you can and that you'll get it done, and that you want to stay in those higher levels of passion. You chose this for a reason, because you love it and you're really good at it. So trust yourself and know that you can sleep and still wake up tomorrow and be really creative and get things done, and it's to your advantage to take care of yourself. I mean, self-care is one of the hardest things for a lot of us to do, but it is the thing that helps us perform better and show up better. So it's like, it's a catch-22. If you don't do it, you're basically creating a situation where you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're so spun out of control, you're not sleeping, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to get it all done, and you're not going to do a great job. So you basically are setting yourself up to fail. So by shifting your thinking around it and saying, okay, I trust that I'm really great at what I do and I will get this done, and it's okay for me to sleep, and I can only do what I can do, and it will be as good as it can be, and I'll put everything, my all into it tomorrow when I wake up.
I read at the end of last year Ariana Huffington's book, Thrive. And one of the things she cites in her book is a study that was done on the most productive countries in the world versus how many hours they actually work. And some of the most productive countries are actually the countries that work the least amount of hours. Like the Netherlands was up there in the top 5. And Greece was up there in one of the least productive, but most hours worked. So, like, hearing that, I went, okay. What's that?
Because they only work till they're 40.
They only work till they're 40.
Then they retire.
Right.
So, but what that sort of said to me was, because last year I was in that place, I was working at least 12-hour days, not sleeping, up at 2 o'clock in the morning, remembering something that I think I forgot, or having an idea, and like being on my computer for 4 more hours and whatever. And I started to say, I'm not doing this right. And, how can I be more efficient and effective and actually scale back my hours and really look at what the most important things are? Because I find that, I know that I do fill the time sometimes with things that really aren't moving the needle. So that's one thing I try to look at now. You have a question in the back? Yeah. What we're talking about right now? What level of energy would this be?
The switch part of it, the spinning out of control part.
Oh, any of it.
Yeah. Okay. So
the mania.
The
mania.
mania.
Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. It's a little bit of 3, because you're trying to cope. You're trying to tolerate your situation. You're taking responsibility. You're saying, I want to do this, but you're still at a low level of energy, so it's manic.
Yeah.
It's not really based on anger,
Right.
and it's certainly not 1. So it's really level 3. It's that you're moving forward. You're just doing it in a manic way. So it's the I win. If you win, that's fine, but that's not really I don't care. It's about me winning, and it's just go, go, go.
Right. So everybody, it's 8 o'clock, which is normally our quitting time. I want to just put out to you if there's 1 or maybe 2 more questions, if there are.
Do you still have a question?
I was just going to say how I'm wrestling with a lot of the manic stages right now, and also very elated at the same time. My business is growing, and I'm trying to ramp up intelligently. And I'm finding a lot of guilt surrounding saying no. And I'm trying to get better at saying no. Certainly watching the warning signs for clients, but it's just a difficult period, I guess, like trying to take time for myself versus choosing the right projects and turning down those when they could be perfectly fine projects, but they're not ones that really get you excited,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And so I almost feel guilty for or being snobby for turning them down,
Right.
for example.
Right.
You know?
It's understandable. I
this
mean, it's understandable
guilt,
because you're going,
entitlement, mania. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
You're going through a growth phase, so you're confronting things that maybe opportunities that you hadn't had before. So that's normal, but it's what you're making it about. You know, being snobby, being guilty. It's what you're making it about.
Mhm.
You're just running a business, and you just have all of these great opportunities that you get to choose from.
Mhm.
So if you could look at it from that perspective of just gratitude for it being there, for the universe presenting it to you, it's there, and you get to choose.
Yeah.
You know, so if you could just say, I get to choose, and I may make a mistake, but that's okay. I'll survive, they'll survive. You know, everybody's going to survive, they're not going to die. And just not put that pressure on yourself to be perfect, because you can't be. You can't be. But if you feel better about it, then you make the decision and move on.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
All right, Alexandra, you had a question.
Thank you so much. Some of the best advice I've ever been given is by you, Gail.
Oh,
And you told me to not resist.
yes.
And it changed my, literally, in the morning, from midnight, it just changed my life, because that acupuncture statement told me I put into effect. And so I wanted to bring it up because I feel like it's something that's so helpful.
Yeah.
This idea of like what happens when you're in the moment, but the parking brake is on, and you don't even realize it.
Right.
And then perhaps the other partner, the collaborator, is also driving the handbrake on. So, what would your advice be? First, about not resisting, but also when you're in a situation of resistance on both sides, like how do you?
I want to throw it back at you because you did it. I mean, you don't have to share all the details of it, but what we were talking, and I sensed that the conundrum that she was having was it was about her resisting what was presenting itself for reasons that were just not excuses, but just there were no real reasons. She was just feeling resistant to the situation. So it was just
resisting success kind of a situation? Or?
Yeah, resisting accepting that reality was lit, actually. And that it was something beyond what I had. Like, for me, I realized that I'm an artist professionally, and I'm very creative, but that I suffer a lack of imagination for my own life. It's pretty drastic. So when something spectacular presented itself, I actually resisted opening up to something that was beyond my control. But it was good. And she just was like, stop resisting it. And it just terrified. I mean, I was terrified, basically. I think it's not that simple, and that's why I want Gail to talk about it, because I didn't have the vocabulary for what I was doing.
right.
Do you mind, I don't know, do you
No.
mind talking? You can't talk about what, okay.
Then it would be universal. No, but it was
Well, like
just-
she said, it was, she's one way in her professional life, but very different in her personal life. And that was why the
like
resistance.
extroverted
Yeah.
publicly and introverted personally, and so it was just like I just didn't understand what I was
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
It was just like this warm embrace of this phrase, and I was like, oh, I see how I'm like being professional in my personal life, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And also just not accepting this bounty that was
Right,
there.
right,
And-
right.
But I also see it not just in personal, I see it in multiple places, that we have such strong expectations for what our future will be, that when the future is standing in front of you and you're like, no, that's not what I imagined, that the creativity, in fact, can become a control mechanism.
Absolutely.
And because we picture, especially I feel like getting older, when all these ideas of what it will be when I make it are now outmoded because there's the next generation. And so it's like this having to learn to stop resisting. And it's about being in the present
Absolutely.
hoped you could counsel us on how to resist how to stop
resisting
the present
Yeah,
moment
okay.
and whatever
Okay.
unicorn. Like,
Right.
how do we not resist? Here's my question.
Okay.
How do we not resist unicorns when they come to us?
Right. So, I mean, unicorns are magical. They're beautiful. They're
Yeah.
fun. So,
Why are they so scary?
yes, ask yourself why, again, it's like, why am I resisting this? Ask yourself, what is it am I afraid of? What could be the worst case scenario if I don't resist this unicorn? Will I survive it? But it's your reptilian brain that is afraid, and it's protecting you. It thinks it's protecting you, but it's really just stopping you from opportunities that are presenting themselves that you set into motion, things that you really did consciously, unconsciously want to happen, and then it shows up for you, and it's frightening. Partially because it actually showed up. It's like, I didn't really think that was going to happen. I wasn't prepared for it. So I think, in your situation and with a lot of my clients, is just having that word so that you have a feeling. Like when we were talking that day, when I said that word, you felt it in your body. You said that to me. You said, I feel it. And then you just decided to let it go. Just right in front of me. You did. You made a conscious choice. But until then, it wasn't conscious.
Right, and that's what coaching does. I mean, I think that's why I wanted to bring this up.
Absolutely.
But why are we so scared? I mean, I feel like I've come so far, but why? Especially as women, and I teach a lot of wonderful younger women. It's like, why are we so scared of succeeding? Like, what is it? And I don't want to be like, all women suffer from this, because I feel like that's, there are so many incredible role models. But how do we overcome, in your opinion?
Well, I think that's a big question that's really hard to answer. But I think what I would say about that is we all have, experiences, beliefs that we've developed throughout the course of our life. And a lot of that is cultural conditioning. It's like the way we were brought up in our families, in our schools, in our colleges, in our workplaces, whatever. And that all goes into our subconscious, and we're not aware of it. We only use 5% of our brain. So that 95% of it is just processing everything that's happening at this moment and making decisions and making judgments about it, and we're not aware of it. So I think, if I could leave you with anything, it's just to exercise your awareness, to look for ways to become more aware in any, that's why everybody says be present now, because when you're present in the moment, you're aware of what's happening. And if you stop to question, what am I thinking? You are not your thoughts. You're the one listening to those thoughts. So stop and say, how are those thoughts that are going through my mind right now affecting the actions that I'm taking, the way I'm feeling, the energy I'm putting out there to the world, and the actions I'm taking. So in that case, it was just having the awareness of the word resistance and feeling it in your body and making a conscious choice to not be resistant. And from breakfast to dinner, your life changed. So, yeah, sometimes it helps to have somebody that you can talk to that can help hone in on what that thing is. Like I know for myself, I can't see what's going on for me, but I can see it in everybody else because I'm tapped into that. I listen very deeply. And that's something that when you're in partnerships or relationships or with clients is to listen beyond the words, to not listen so that you can respond, but like tap into what that energy is. What are you feeling from that person? Because if you can say one word like that, if you say the word collaborate to the client, it may just strike a chord that gets them to decide to do it. So I think does that help?
Yeah.
Can I say something about resistance?
Sure.
Gail and I talk about this a lot. I think for me with resistance, because it's a very Buddhist thing, resistance creates suffering. That's like the whole Buddhist
And
principle.
don't they say, or I don't know if it's Buddhist, but what you resist persists.
Yeah. But
Well, and one more thing, they also say pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
It's like when I realized like my mind is never going to figure anything out. So the more I try to figure something out, it's just my mind trying to figure out what it created.
Right.
So if you can just stop in that moment and be like, okay, like it just is.
I'm okay. I mean,
This is what showed up.
Yeah.
So I can either not like it, you can not like it, but still not resist it.
Right.
So you can just not just be in like in a
Right.
like, okay, this is what showed
It
up.
sounds
now what do I do
so
about
simple,
it?
but
it
it's so
is.
freaking
But it is.
hard.
It is. That's the thing. It is.
Yes, it's simple. That doesn't make it easy. Right?
So when you're in level 6, the thing that one of my like major mantras that has gotten me through so many of those like rabbit hole
Yes, tell
moments is I'm going to be okay with whatever happens, because I am going to be okay with whatever happens, whether it turns out the way I hoped it did or the way I didn't expect it to. I'm still going to be okay with it, because if it turns out the way I didn't want it, there's a reason why. This happened for a reason. And I know that that sounds like airy-fairy. And when people say that to you, when it's something that happened in your life that is really hard, it's hard to hear that this is happening for a reason.
It showed up, yeah.
But it showed up for you for a reason. And it could be because you are going to learn from it, or you're going to turn it around, or you're going to meet some incredible person that's going to change your life eventually. And it may not be right in front of you. But what's, like I said, what has saved me now that I have this understanding of these levels and this energy is to just always remind myself that it's going to be okay. We have this reptilian brain that tries to protect us from the tiger, the saber-toothed tiger that is going to come after us, and the client may be a jerk, but they're not going to kill you.
They're not a super-
So it's going to be okay.
Right. Right.
So I'm going to be okay with whatever happens. Is what I say when I walk into situations that I'm not sure how they're going to go. I just repeat that I'm going to be okay with whatever happens today.
I had a mentor once that used to tell me to pose the question, how is this happening for me?
Right.
That kind of helps shift the energy I find too.
Not to me.
Yeah.
To me is level 1.
Yeah.
For me is level 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Just a simple change of words just changes your whole energy around it.
Okay. So I think
About 2 more hours.
yeah, about 2 more hours. Yes, it's 8:20, and we still have time to network, and if anybody wants to come and speak to Gail. And I want to thank you so much for giving us your time and your wise wisdom.